If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. Ciela is surprised to see the Warrior of Light in the Crystarium because she had assumed that you'd gone back to your world for good. She's glad that you hadn't because she wanted to talk to you about the crystals that had belonged to Arbit and his friends. After taking down the Cardinal Virtues, those crystals had ended up in your hands. Ciela wants you to give them to her. It made sense for you to keep the remnants of the heroes with you while you saved their world, but since you're going home, Ciela believes that the Warriors of Light of the First deserve to stay on the First so that their spirits can watch their world flourish. Since you weren't the only one involved with dealing with the Warriors of Light, it only makes sense that you discuss the fate of the crystals with the other Virtue Hunters. Since Giada is always looking for an excuse to drink, and the more people she has with her, that means there are more people she can trick into paying for her drinks, she goes to gather the other Virtue Hunters. The dwarf wants to get straight to the drinking, but Granson thinks it'll be better to find out what you want before the party starts. So you tell them what you know about the fallen Warriors of Light and Ciela. Learning that the barmaid is the Shadowkeeper from another world who traveled with Arbit 100 years ago is weird even for them. Giada already knew the woman was evil, because every time she comes to the bar, she wakes up outside with an empty wallet. She figures that it has to be the Shadowkeeper's doing, when in actuality, she just gets drunk, spends all of her money, then passes out. You know, typical dwarf behavior. The question of the crystals is a simple one to answer. All of the Virtue Hunters think that they should stay with Ciela. With that settled, the party starts, which means drinks for everyone. Granson's not much of a drinker, and he takes one sip by accident and passes out. Ciela's not all that pleased about the mess that you all made, but she is happy that you agreed to let her keep the crystals. And she doesn't have to touch them to feel their memories. Memories that let her know that even after what she did, they all still saw her as a friend. Watching you and the Virtue Hunters party reminded Ciela of how Arbit and his friends had acted when they hung out. They got on each other's nerves and made a mess in a similar fashion, but if anything happened, they always had each other's backs. It makes her wonder if things would have been different if she had friends like them on her own shard. She wasn't the only one who fought, but all of the Warriors of Light on her world did their own thing. They never worked together, even though she knew some of them, like Unakalai, who you've met on your own world. The two of them had only talked once after their world was destroyed, and she wonders if he's found a new purpose now that Elidibus is gone. Or is he just as lost as she was? She wants you to try to help him like you did for her, so you head back to the source to check on him. Urianger had already let him know what had happened on the First and what had happened to Elidibus, but he hadn't known that you'd met Ciela, who he knows as Silva. He considers her an ally, sort of, even though they weren't together for long. It's hard not to feel some type of kinship with the only other survivor of your world, and being newly made immortals gave them just a bit more to talk about. In hindsight, he thinks the same way as Silva. If they had worked together on their world, they could have saved it. But since neither of them is dead, there's still a chance to fix that mistake at least. And since the Warring Triad is gone, Unakalai does need a new purpose, and he doesn't want to find it alone, so he wants you to take him to Silva if you can, which you can do by simply pulling his soul out of his body, stuffing it into a spirit vessel and putting it in your pocket. He's heard about how you did that to bring the Scions home, and he's pretty sure they all should have died in the process, but it's not really a risk for him if what Elidibus said was true. There's very little, if anything, that can actually kill him, so he wants to try it. But you're no expert on spirit vessels, so you call on Urianger. Immortal or not, it's still very possible for Unakalai to get lost in the rift between worlds, but the boy is willing to risk it, so Urianger stuffs him into a spirit vessel, which isn't difficult since he's technically just a soul without a body, a lot like the Scions had been on the First. It makes him hard to kill, but Urianger doesn't think that having no physical body is something that can last forever. Eventually, Unakalai may need a body of his own, which could explain why the Ascians constantly possess people. That also means that you may need to help the boy get a real body one day. But for now, you head to the First, and to Beck Luke, the new Mo who can get the boy's soul out of the spirit vessel. The Numo immediately knows that you want something by the look on your face, and the dog fae is not happy that even after all the trouble you went through the last time you brought people across the rift, you've decided to do it again. After calling you all kinds of idiot, the Numo takes the spirit vessel and goes to free Unakalai in private because the boy will show up naked and you don't want to see that. While Beck-Luke deals with the spirit vessel, you go to get Ciela, who is extremely surprised to see Unakalai since she expected you to talk to him, not bring him across the rift. The boy had told the Numo his story, and Beck-Luke was extremely surprised to hear that the barmaid was a hero from another world. After thinking for a moment, Silva actually remembers Beck-Luke from Greenwich Licht all those years ago, and the Numo is more than a little curious to hear more of Silva's tale and about her world. Like the first, the 13th had heroes too, but unlike the Warriors of Light of the first, on her world the various heroes either didn't know the others existed or they just didn't care, so they fought alone, and eventually the ether of the aura site that they used to seal the primals away turned the heroes into monsters. They weren't all corrupted, but they still all fought alone even after that, and the world was consumed by darkness, the only people being saved being the ones that the Ascians chose. It was thought to be permanent, but after Unakalai heard about what you did in the empty, he thinks it may be possible to rebalance the ether of the 13th. Of course, the Warrior of Light is willing to try, but Beck-Luke, being the more intellectual of the group, thinks that it might be a good idea to see how bad off the 13th is before talking about saving it. That's a good idea. What's not a good idea is the Warrior of Light's plan to use the Crystal Tower to open a Void Gate. Even though I would like to watch the Cloud of Darkness fight Eden, it's probably not a good idea. Beck-Luke has a less risky idea. There was a group who had figured out how to open Void Gates to summon small beasts, and you just so happen to know someone who was a part of that group, Tainer. While you go to see if he wants to help, with a very excited Unakalai tagging along, Beck-Luke goes to work on something that should let you see into the void without getting you all killed. Once Unakalai brings Tainer up to speed, he admits that it is possible to open the rifts, but not with his power alone. To open functional rifts, it took him and Naubert working in unison. Unakalai can sense that he and Tainer have pretty much the same level of ether, so it shouldn't be too hard for them to get in sync with one another. But Tainer and Naubert had been born and raised for that one purpose, and even then it took years for them to get it right. Unakalai still wants to at least try, and Silva has an idea that could help make the process work. She does have a crystal with Naubert's memory stored in it, and Unakalai does have a talent for understanding the minds of ethereal beings. He's only used the ability on primals, but it should work the same on Naubert's crystal. It works, and he's able to draw on the memories of Naubert's training with Tainer, which should help them open a hollow. But it'll be better to not try it inside of the Crystarium for obvious reasons, so the three of you head out to Lakeland far away from people. With Tainer guiding the process, the two of them manage to open a small rift. The tiny creature that comes through is easily dealt with by the Warrior of Light, and even though it took a lot out of him to open such a small gate, Tainer is impressed that Unakalai even managed what he did on their first attempt. And of course he's eager to try again. On the second attempt they make a bigger void gate, and by the third they've synced perfectly, bringing out a much larger monster for you to put down. Tainer finds it odd that Unakalai's ether matched his so easily, but it seems very familiar to him. I honestly think that Unakalai is either a shard of Naubert or a shard of Tainer himself, but whatever the reason, Unakalai is excited that they're one step closer to finding out whether his world can be saved. That means it's time to give Beck-Luke a call. The Fae has made some progress as well, so you all head to Laxenloft to try and peer into the void. The Numo shows up, and of course Silva is with him because she's eager to see her home world too. Granted, the only thing that will be going through the rift is a porksy that Beck-Luke made. Tainer and Unakalai open the rift, and as expected, something comes through. This time it's a void scent that's much stronger than the others, but that doesn't mean it's any threat to you. With the creature dealt with, the Warrior of Light uses her ether to help guide Beck-Luke's porksy back, while the boys close the rift to prevent any more monsters from popping through. Beck-Luke thinks that the porksy may have the information that you need to get to work on the 13th, but it could take years to sift through it all. While Unakalai is impatient, he's been alive for millennia, so waiting a little bit longer won't hurt all that much. Since there's nothing left to do, you all head back to the Crystarium to let Sarek know just what you found out. Since it'll be years before the journey to the 13th can be made, Tainer asks Unakalai to join him and Sarek as bounty hunters who go around helping people on the first. Giat and the others over here, mainly because they were listening since Silva told them about her world and what you all were working on. Since the former Virtue Hunters think it's a cause worth fighting for, they form a new team of heroes to protect the First and save the 13th, just like the Warriors of Light before them. This concludes the story of the Void questline. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, ding that notification bell, join the Discord, and if you really want to show your support, you can donate to the channel through the link in the description. Until next time, guys, later.